Thank you for joining us for this Dairy Hollow Chinwag, brought to you by the Writers Colony at Dairy Hollow, a nonprofit residency program whose mission is to nurture writers of all backgrounds, genres, and levels of experience in a nurturing environment that builds community, stimulates new thinking, energizes creative expression, and optimizes productivity. Learn more about us at writerscolony.org. I'm Michelle Hannon, the Executive Director of the Writers Colony at Dairy Hollow, and today it is my great pleasure to introduce poet, spoken word artist, and award-winning teacher, Joaquin Zihuatanejo. Joaquin, tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Joaquin, and I'm a poet and a writer and a teacher from Dallas, Texas, which is one of the largest metropolitan areas in this country. I love being a city person. I love cities very much, and when I get the opportunity to travel the country and work with young writers, I always jump at the opportunity to go to places like San Francisco and New York and Chicago and Atlanta and Philadelphia, because those places remind me of home. But I will say that during my time at the Writers Colony, it was sort of the antidote for home. It was not big city. It was not shadows of skyscrapers. It was shadows of trees, and it was in the shadows of mountains and the shadows of hills. And what a lovely change it was of scenery and in a way of mindset to be there.
Awesome. And so tell us what you write and what inspires you.
Yeah. Well, I'm a poet, and I write poetry. And what inspires me is the image, the idea of a poem coming to life inside of a line. A reader who gets my manuscript or the anthology that my poem's in lives in a different part of the world than I do, or maybe lives right around the corner from where I do, but is still an entirely different person. And through image and through line, we're able to share this sort of shared humanity that we all have together. I think sometimes we get so lost in our lives of the me, and the I, that we forget we're a part of this beautiful, much larger collective we. That's this sort of extraordinary being in and of itself. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about poetry, is that it connects us to that collective we. You know, I think that, I've said this before, I think that every job that's honest is noble by definition. My grandfather was a cotton picker, and I think that was noble work. But I think there are some jobs that are just, in a way, sort of sacred, kind of like teaching. And I think the job of the poet is, in a way, a sacred job, because of the fact that through image and through line and through verse, we're connecting ourselves to others and connecting others to others. And, you know, I just love the idea of a grandmother reading their grandchild a poem of mine and having a discussion about it and finding out what they have in common, despite the fact that there's this generational gap. And maybe there's even this generational connection, and the poem reminds us of that. I think that I feel very lucky to call myself a poet. For the last year, I stepped away from my classroom as an everyday classroom teacher about 14 years ago, and just decided to just try and be a poet. I remember when I did that, my partner was like, wait, how are you gonna get paid? And I said, trust me, there are universities out there and workshop opportunities and reading opportunities. We can do this. I can do this. And after a lot of praying and arguing and loving each other, you know, we took this leap of faith together. So for the last almost 14 years now, you know, when it comes to tax time, I write at the bottom of the tax form, you have to write your occupation, and I write down the word poet every year. And I feel very lucky and very humbled to be able to do that. There's a lot of people in my position who are also professors as well as poets, are also, you know, teachers as well as poets, are also pizza delivery people as well as poets. And you know, my job is to sit at this desk in this room that my partner designed for me, and to write and to teach through Zoom. And now we're getting back out on the road. My agent has me, you know, going back out on the road. And next week I'm going to be in Atlanta. And so yeah, so I was once a teacher slash poet, and now I think I'm more poet slash teacher.
So if somebody wanted to learn more about the services you offer or to hire you, how would they find you?
Oh, they can find me online. I've got a website that my agent developed, and I'm not crazy about the title, but my agent knows catchy things and swears to me that that it's going to work. So it's www.jzthepoet.com. So my initials are JZ. I tell students all the time I'm the other Jay-Z, the less famous Jay-Z. So, but I'm very happy to be able to call myself a poet. I feel very lucky. But they can find me at that website and find information about what I do and what I write and how I teach and how I facilitate. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us how being at Derry Hollow affected your writing while in residence, and what did you bring away from your residency?
I think for me, it brought silence, which is something that I don't get a lot of in my city. I love my city. I love the sounds of Dallas, Texas. I love the smells. I love the asphalt. I love the glass. I love the concrete. But I to be in that space of quiet was extraordinary. It's something I don't often get a chance to do, and I think that that's what was most important to me. I will say it was a little intimidating, being there, because when you come from the world of noise and the world of distraction, the worlds of traffic, and you go into a world that's more about hills and more about trees and more about mountains. It's something to sort of you have to get in the right headspace. But after mere minutes of being there, I realized this is a beautiful setting to be in. This is a sort of visually stunning place to be in. So it was actually quite thrilling.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what you're reading for us today. And I'm just going to turn the floor over to you, Joaquin.
I'm going to read a poem that is newish, and I wrote a manuscript a while back called Arsonist, and when it first became what it was called Causes of Degradation. The manuscript was called that. I was like, oh, that title is so long. There's something about it I need to change. And I said to myself, I'm going to change the title of the manuscript to Arsonist, but I couldn't talk myself into it. It was just an idea. I had to change this title from Causes of Degradation to Arsonist. There's a lot of fire imagery in this manuscript, and it was about my father and being burned by his absence, a lot of the poems. And then I had a conversation with this brilliant poet named James Alunyoda Stevens, who said to me, Joaquin, I heard you're thinking of changing the title of your manuscript from Causes of Degradation to Arsonist. And he was one of my readers who was familiar with all the poems in it. And I said, yeah, I think I am. And he goes, you should. I said, well, why do you say that? I said, I think I should too, but I can't figure out why. And he said, I think you should, because these poems are about you and your father and the absence and the distance. And they're all about that. And he goes, don't you understand the word arsonist has the word son, S-O-N, in the middle of it. But that single word also contains the sentence, our son is, And I thought that was incredible. So I'm going to read you a poem from that collection called For Your Damn Love. And that's actually a title from a very famous song in Mexico, Por tu maldito amor, which is an image of someone singing it inside the poem that sort of sparked the poem. Your mother was a devout Catholic. Your father was an atheist. You are intentionally using the past tense. She is now Mormon. He is now dead. For this reason and so many others, you constantly find yourself praying to nothing. You search for the sacred in the night sky. An empty hand, a plastic bag with a large hole in it. Since his death, everything has a hole in it, including you. How is it that you mourn so deeply, weep in an empty hotel room late at night over a man who left all those years ago and never came back? They gave you an explanation, an obituary, so many words, sentences, paragraphs. There is no mention of you in the body. You are a something reduced to a nothing, a dried riverbed, a forgotten secret, a roll of exposed film. You recall the photograph of him that you burned as a child, his foolish, resplendent body so thin and skeletal, the right angles of his shoulders, the terse edges of his elbows. It is because of him that every part of you is sharp, knuckles, knees, tongue. You inherited that much from him. You do not tell your mother that your father is dead. You do not see the point. She has been remarried for many years. She only ever talked about your father in her sleep. You wake Late at night from ache of hunger, sit up. Let your legs dangle over the fold-out couch, the only bed you knew as a child. You walk past her bedroom door on the way to the kitchen. You learn from her that it is possible for someone to weep in their sleep. You can only make out one word between sobs. His name, which is also yours. Many months after hearing the news, you will call your mother, ask her how she is doing, make small talk, say it in passing. My father is dead. She is silent. She is new moon, a callous palm, a torn grocery bag dancing within wind in a vacant parking lot. She severs the silence with pointed gossip about a distant cousin, scolds the dog in Spanish for knocking over the water bowl. Such piercing indifference. You can hear her story on the television behind her. She will not carry this with you. You are using the present tense intentionally. Half of your past is gone forever. The other half refuses to acknowledge that any of it happens, and there you are, a boy, standing in front of a gray metal trash can in the alley that parallels Bonita Boulevard, a photo of a slender blonde man in one hand, your tío's Zippo lighter in the other. Above you, a hollow moon lingers. In the distance, a gurgling borracho sings Por tu maldito amor, beautifully. You close your eyes, hear a voice that might be the drunk man's, or your father's, or yours, whisper, burn it, turn it all to ash, and warm yourself by the embers. Thank you for listening to that. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Thank you for sharing with us today, Joaquin.
You're so welcome.
And thank you to Annie Newcomer and David Newcomer IV and the Newcomer Foundation for providing residency sponsorship for Joaquin in memory of Annie's brother, John Clare, revered professor, Russian historian, and Jewish scholar. And if you'd like to learn more about sponsoring a residency for a writer in your life or that you admire, please call me at 479-253-7444 or email at director@writerscolony.org. Thank you to everybody who listened today. We really appreciate it.
And I want to echo that thank you to the Newcomer Foundation. I want to thank them so very much for the opportunity they gave me. And I want to thank you, Michelle, and everyone at the Writers Colony at Derry Hollow for doing what you do and providing this space for writers and this time for writers and this silence for writers and this beauty for writers. It is truly appreciated.
Thank you, Joaquin. It's such a pleasure.
You're so welcome.